I hadn't seen the house in 18 years. It stood there, weathered but upright, just as I remembered, a faded gray outline against the misty hills. The wind carried the scent of damp earth and something faintly sweet, like my mother's old perfume. I stepped out of the car and paused. The keys felt heavy in my hand. I wasn't here to mourn. I came to clean out what was left, sign the papers, and leave. That was the plan. But standing at the foot of the porch, something in my chest tightened. Not grief, not exactly. It was something older, harder. Guilt, maybe. Inside, the floorboards creaked a welcome I didn't want. The air was thick, like it hadn't moved in years. The light switch still stuck. I flipped it, and the living room flickered to life, casting long shadows on furniture wrapped in silence. This place hadn't forgotten me. The first night, I slept in my old bedroom. The bed was smaller than I remembered, the mattress sunken in the middle like it had held someone for far too long. I left the door open, though I'm not sure why. Maybe to feel less alone. Maybe to hear what the house might say. Around 2 a.m., I woke to a soft thud. Then another, closer. It wasn't the settling kind of sound. It was deliberate, a footstep, maybe two. I held my breath. In the morning, I found a framed photo of me as a child, the one that always sat on the piano, now resting on the kitchen table. I hadn't touched it. The house, it seemed, was glad I'd come home. By late afternoon, the light in the house shifted. It always did around this time, soft amber bleeding through the curtains. I wandered through rooms I had avoided for years, touching objects like they might bite. The hallway closet held her old scarves, still carrying the scent of lavender and something sharper. I opened the drawer in the writing desk and found the bundle of letters I'd written to her but never sent. Each envelope was still sealed, or so I thought. One had been opened. Inside was my own handwriting, shaky and angry, from a time I barely remembered. Beneath it, a second piece of paper, a response, scribbled in her unmistakable cursive. "I'm sorry," it read. "I never knew how to answer you." I stood there, clutching both pages, while the house watched in silence. That night, I dreamed I was 16 again. The kitchen was on fire, not with flames, but with heat and smoke and that horrible cracking sound of wood giving way. I was pounding on the locked door, screaming for her, and she stood on the other side, watching unmoving. I woke with a gasp. The room was cold, but the air smelled faintly of smoke. I ran to the kitchen, heart pounding. Everything was intact, no fire, no signs of heat. Just the old microwave blinking at me. 3:17 a.m. I hadn't thought about that night in years. I told myself I had imagined it, that the fire was small, and I got out. But my body remembered more than I let it, and now the house was remembering too. I found the cassette player in the attic the next morning, tucked beneath a pile of old winter coats. It was the kind with chunky buttons and worn plastic, the one I used to carry around when I was little. A single tape was still inside, unmarked. I pressed play. Static. Then laughter mine. A high, unfiltered sound from a time I barely remembered. A birthday, maybe? The rustling of wrapping paper, a dog barking. Then her voice. "Helena," she whispered. My name, repeated slowly like a prayer. "Please don't forget." My throat tightened. I hadn't heard her voice in years, and yet it lived here, perfectly preserved in the silence. I replayed the message 3 times. The last time, I heard something new, a breath, a pause. "Are you listening now?" Yes, I thought. I am. I hesitated before opening the door to my mother's bedroom, the room I'd avoided for years. The paint was peeling, the curtains drawn tight, but inside was a confession I never expected. A diary lay on the nightstand, pages yellowed and fragile. I opened it and read her words, the loneliness, the confusion, the illness she battled silently. She wrote about her fear of hurting me, her struggle with the cold distance I resented. She wanted to love me, but didn't know how. Tears blurred my vision as I traced her handwriting. For the first time, I understood. The house wasn't just a building full of memories. It was a vessel carrying her pain, her love, and her regret. And now it was carrying mine. The clock stopped again at 3:17 a.m. That familiar, frozen moment. Drawn by something I couldn't resist, I found myself standing in the kitchen, the place where everything changed. She was there, sitting at the table. Not fully alive, not just a ghost, but a shadow made of sorrow and longing. Her eyes met mine, and for the first time in years, I felt her presence as something more than pain. She reached out her hand, trembling. I hesitated, then took it. Warmth flooded through me, and a flood of forgiveness followed. In that fragile moment, I let go of the years of anger and fear. We didn't speak. We didn't need to. The house sighed around us, as if a heavy weight had lifted. Morning came with sunlight piercing the fog. The house felt lighter, almost ordinary. I packed my things slowly, holding a photo of me as a child and the cassette taped tightly in my hands. Before leaving, I played the tape once more. Her voice, soft and clear, whispered through the static. Now I can rest. So can you. I smiled through tears and stepped outside. The mist had vanished, and so had the heaviness in my chest. The road ahead was open, and for the first time in years, I felt ready to move on, carrying her memory, not the pain.